Told the guy, I said, it's all going to boil down. You're going to file your complaints. We're going to defend them. Bingo.
All right, give me one sec. Okay, you're live.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Village of Ruidoso. This is a special meeting. Today is January 27th, 2022. It's 8 a.m. If you'll stand with me, join me for a moment of silence, and then we will have the pledge. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here early. So on our agenda today, we have the item of discussion and possible action on adoption of resolution. Do I need to get a motion to accept today's agenda?
Mayor Crawford, I'll do a roll call.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Roll call, Ron.
Mayor Crawford,
Here.
Councilor Salas,
Here.
Councilor Letterman,
Here.
Councilor Eby,
Here.
Councilor Cornelius,
Here.
Councilor Coughlin,
Here.
Councilor Jackson.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Do I need a motion to accept today's agenda?
No, Mayor.
No. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for the last 2 days, marathon sessions in all the different departments and all the different employees that did their presentation. Manager Dodge, you guys putting that together was very impressive. It really helps the council stay on the very edge of what's happening here. Today's agenda item number 1 is discussion and possible action on adoption of Resolution 2022-03, a resolution amending the fiscal year 2022 budget, quarter ending December 31st, 2021, for certain funds and application to Local Government Division, the LGD, of the New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration, DFA, for approval thereof. Good morning, Judy Starkovich.
Good morning, Mayor, councilors. In front of you are our budget adjustments from October 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021. It's a little too early this morning. And this is a budget adjustment that increased all our expenditures by $2,580,409. And of course, each individual fund had a separate increase or decrease. And on the agenda memo, you can see the actual increases. But what our focus is going to be today is on the actual next page, which is the resolution report, which is titled Department of Finance and Administration, Local Government Division, Financial Management Bureau Schedule of Budget Adjustments. It is the actual sheet that has the reason why we completed the budget adjustments. I did hand out another page. None of the numbers changed. I just included some additional information that might be a little bit helpful to jog our memories about what we had posted in the previous quarter. So if everybody's there, I can go ahead and start.
Go ahead.
Okay. So on the general fund, we did have changes in each of the categories in revenues, transfers in, expenditures, and transfers out. And what you'll notice is that sometimes there's some communication between the two funds, so there might be a transfer out of one fund that becomes a transfer in at another fund. So some of the reasons that will go, I'll be referencing some other funds down below that have the same exact amounts because of the transactions between the two funds. But overall, in the revenues of the general fund, they did increase by $476,803. And that was because we got the grant agreement from DHSEM for the Ebony storm. We did get a grant agreement for $69,303. We did include the ice rink admissions at $36,000. And then we received the ball field fire reimbursement We had already posted 30,000 in a previous adjustment, and we got the final check. So we had to increase the reimbursement up by 76,839. So the total reimbursement on that fire was $106,839. We did get the TRD lawsuit, $293,488. And we were awarded a federal bulletproof vest grant in the amount of $1,173. On the transfers in, they actually did go down $977,190. This is for the American Recovery Funds. I cannot record the revenue in the general fund. I have to record it in a intergovernmental fund per DFA recommendations. And this year, we only got half of the reimbursement. So they only allowed us to book half of the cost, half of the amount of the grant. We did get double this amount. However, we are scheduled to receive the other half probably in next fiscal year. So that's why they wanted me to reduce it off their original budget
Mayor
adjustment.
Crawford, just clarification that was a disbursement as opposed to a reimbursement.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
disbursement.
And now that the final rule is out, Mayor, I'd like to maybe sit down with you and Judy and Ron, and then maybe a counselor or whatnot, and then go through the final rule, and then make some decisions or recommendations that we'd bring back to the governing body
Okay.
on those funds.
How the funds can be used.
Yes, because it's, as we anticipated, there are some
Yep.
conditions built into that that are a little bit tricky on how we spend that. And, depending on how much money we allocate, there's other reporting issues that can become quite cumbersome if we're not careful. So I'd just like to go over that with you and maybe one other counselor or two or whatever you wish, and then we can come back and make a recommendation to the governing body.
A lot of strings attached, so whichever one of you folks haven't had enough fun the last few days that would like to be involved in that, you're more than welcome.
Okay, in the general fund, expenditures did go down by $740,478. We did increase expenditures for the TRD settlement. And again, when we receive grant revenue, we usually not only increase the revenue side, but the expenditure side to actually spend the money. So sometimes you'll see the duplication of the reasons in two places. There's the bulletproof vest grant at $1,173. And then coming into snow weather, we rolled over our balance from fiscal year 21, snow removal amount at $89,122. This was for the Goliath that we had got a couple years back. And then we added the grant money for the Ebony storm at $69,303. So together we have about $160,000 for snow removal. Each year, as the guys allocate salaries and their overtime to this grant, I reimburse the funds where the original paycheck was paid out of. And we will keep on rolling over this money for snow removal each year. This year, we also allocated some of the money to buy some additional plows for some of the trucks in order to equip the departments a little bit better to get out faster and quicker, so,
So the Goliath, I mean, that was 5 years ago, easy.
yes.
And so I thought that was reimbursement for expenditures then. And so we treated it more as a windfall to hold it for future
So as you recall, Mayor and councilors, it took like 2 years
to get it.
to get the money, so we just set it aside because we knew eventually we would probably have another storm. And if practice was that they were gonna take 2 years for us to get reimbursed, we needed to set aside some kind of money
Sure.
in order to combat the snow removal
Okay.
and keep going until the reimbursement came in, so.
Okay, very good.
The cemetery needed some additional monies for the services for their burials at $7,500. And then, again, we had already recorded $30,000 of the ball field fire settlement, so we just increased that line item by $76,839. I need to get to some of the departments that had expenditures associated with that fire and reimburse them those amounts. You can see I had already booked the American Recovery Act in a special projects fund line item, just so that we would be able to access the money. However, I needed to decrease it by the half. We decreased that special project line item for the engineering fees at Pine Cliff at $32,013, and the Links grant match on their NMDOT grant at $72,800, and for the Center Street repairs, $195,900. So some of these decreases will actually translate into transfers out of the general fund into other capital project funds to complete these projects.
So Judy, on the cemetery, you said they needed extra funds for burial expenses?
For the opens and the close when,
Aren't there fees that should be covering that?
Yeah, there is, but we've just been having a lot of burials, so it's a wash, put it that way. Because
Okay.
they do charge them for it. It's just that on the expenditure side, sometimes, I think we budget, what, 10,000 every year?
something like that.
Yeah, that's what we've always had, and sometimes there's less burials, sometimes there's more.
Okay.
So, but it is a wash. There are the fees that cover that.
And I think that's what was happening. They were experiencing
There's been
several within
quite a
1
few.
month.
It was a busy season.
So on our transfers out, they actually went up. You'll see the VOR match to the Links Trail grant at $72,800. You'll see it coming in another fund, $218. And then on the RSVP grant, Anthony actually has a federal and a state grant, so he's totally self-sufficient this year. Before, the general fund would subsidize the state grant because they wouldn't pay for retirement and insurances. So we used to always have a subsidy going. Now that he's totally independent, there's a little bit of a timing issue between the time that he spends the grant and the time that it comes in. So he needs a little bit of a float to get him through that little time gap. And so we are transferring $5,000 to that fund. However, when we get the reimbursements off the 2 grants, we'll pay that money back. So you'll see.
Hold on, Judy, let me step back, Mayor, if you don't mind.
Oh, go ahead.
On the Pine Cliff Engineering, on the expenditures, was that for sewer or water?
That was for the sewer and the streets.
Okay.
The water part was already coming out of,
SGRT, and that's where I thought, wait a
yeah,
minute.
and then that's when we added the sewer and the streets. That was an uneligible expense under
Right.
supplemental GRT, so
Right.
we had to find additional
I
funds.
just wanted to know for sure where it
Yes.
went to. Thank you.
Sure. And then, of course, we reimbursed the Affordable Housing Fund at $750,000.
And that's the total amount we have in that fund.
No. As Manager Dodge said, we have the million that we had set aside for the new contract, plus there's I think there's another 20 or 30,000 additional.
And we
Okay.
taking
And
the
that-
$750 out to purchase which property?
Meacham,
Me,
603 Meacham.
yeah,
Okay, and then we reimburse that.
reimburse that, so, okay.
I'll go ahead and move on to 201, if that's okay.
Okay,
We did increase the expenditures to pay judicial education fees for fiscal year '22, and they estimated them at $1,200. Since this budget adjustment, Annette has given us a way to find out how much we needed to pay judicial education fees because they had stopped in the payment in March of 2018. So we did go back and we found out how much we owed for all those months, and we did submit a check to them a week or so ago in the amount of $12,400. So in the next budget adjustment, you'll see that increase to pay those back fees. In the special library, they did get a state grant in the amount of $9,713, so we did increase the revenues and the expenditures. On lodger's tax, there was a transfer in for the Grindstone Boat Ramp from Special Recreation. And of course, we did increase the corresponding expenditure for the boat ramp. And then we also recorded the rental of the ice rink at $36,000. On special recreation, we decreased, some of the budget to pay for the Grindstone boat ramp, and then, of course, you'll see a transfer out. On 218, the senior center got a legislative appropriation for exercise equipment at $16,521. And then I had to correct the legislative appropriation for the senior center tiles. I had to increase it by $28,307. The total amount that he has for those tiles is $73,077. We did receive the Links Trail construction grant at $427,200. We did have some miscellaneous income at $5,000, and then we did reduce the American Recovery. The transfer in was the grant match to the Links Trail grant from the general fund. And then, of course, we increased the expenditures for the exercise equipment at the senior center, the legislative appropriation for the tiles at $29,000, and the construction grant for Links at $500,000. And of course, the transfers out were also decreased by that same half amount of the American Recovery. On the RSVP grant, I had to decrease the revenues. I had included an amount twice. I'm not exactly sure how I did that, but they do have two grants, one federal at $75,000 and one state at $35,000 for a total of $110,000. You do see the money coming in from the general fund for the timing issue, and then we had to adjust the federal and state grants so that it ties out to the grant amount. On the DWI grant, I had to book the reversion of the fiscal year 2020 grant at $21,884, and of course, we were awarded another fiscal year 2021 reversion grant at $48,084. These reversion grants are at the fiscal year. If we haven't expended all the money off the DWI grant, we have to submit the money back to the state. And then in the new fiscal year, he's able to go back and reapply for those funds in a reversion grant. The fiscal year 2020 reversion grant, we did actually expend that money in 2021 for the reversion. However, we didn't get the money back from the state until just the first, in October, I believe. So that's why I have to book the revenue here. And of course, on the expenditure side, you'll only see the new reversion grant because we had already expended those expenditures in the prior fiscal year. On the Geo Bonds, we did issue our Series 2021 Geo Bonds from a debt service fund that is in a 400 series. This is the actual capital project fund where we actually spend the money. We did issue 1.5 million, but we had bond issue costs at 50,000. So the net amount that we can use on our project is 1,450,000. And right now those are available for some projects in Geo Bond. On number, let's see, where are we at? On the Geo Bonds, we do have some monies tied to the CDBG grant. And so, again, there's a timing issue between the time we spend our expenditure on CDBG and that we get the money back from the state. So there's a timing issue. So right now, the Geo Bond is lending the CDBG fund $110,000. But as soon as we get the CDBG grant monies, we'll pay that back. Then on 312, which is actually the CDBG, you'll actually see the little bit of loan coming in to balance out the fund. On 320, we have a transfer coming in of $977,913. This is for the reimbursement of the affordable housing from the general fund, the Center Street additional funds, and the additional funds for Pine Cliff Engineering. On NMFA loans, we did have the additional loan closeout for the project for the magistrate court. And between the amounts that we had in the first preliminary closing and what we finally ended up at, I had to increase the loan for $71,066. We did actually issue the loan for $1.2 million. A majority went to the project, which was like $895,000, and the remaining funds were to put into the capitalized interest account and the debt service account, because as you know, Payments on this loan will be due prior to when we complete it, and the AOC takes occupancy of it, and we start collecting rent on it. So there's a little bit of a gap there. So those funds are to get us over the hump. In the Geo Bonds, you'll see the actual issuance of the Geo Bond Series 2021 at 1.5, and then the transfer out to the capital improvement at 1.4 million. On the airport, we had to increase their jet fuel sales by 120,000, and then I had to adjust the federal and state grant amounts because I had only booked 600,000 as a federal, but the grant for the runway redo is actually federal, $618,119. There's a state match at $34,340, and we have a match of $34,340 for a total project of $686,799. And then you'll see corresponding increases to correct that grant amount. And then on the risk management, we budgeted for the catering for the Christmas party from an insurance refund that we received from Blue Cross Blue Shield. So it wasn't too big of a budget adjustment, but it was still significant, so.
Yeah.
Any questions? Anything else, Judy?
No, that's it.
If there's no questions, can we get a motion to accept?
Mr. Mayor, move to adoption of Resolution 2022-03, a resolution amending the fiscal year 2022 budget, quarter ending December 31st, 2021, for certain funds and application to the local government division, LGD, of the new New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration, DFA, for approval.
Second.
Here we have a motion and a second. Any final discussion? Okay, roll call, please, Ron.
Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Eby, Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Salas,
Aye.
Counselor Cornelius,
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin.
Aye.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'd also like to just, for the record, state that this did go to the Finance Committee.
Yes, I'm
and came as a
sorry.
recommendation.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. We had an internal finance committee meeting. When was that, Monday?
Monday.
Yeah, Monday on that. So it was all approved at that time. And we will be adding a new member to the internal finance committee. It's the local chairman, president of First National Bank, Richie Hood. All right. Thank you, everybody. That concludes the agenda for the special meeting. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
And
Good job there.
the 9 o'clock meeting will resume, and then we'll go in, do a few statements, and
Yep, and I won't be here. You'll have to run that one. I've got a